Close your eyes for a second and imagine you are standing on the deck of a ship. The wood beneath your feet is warped and salt crusted. The smell hits you first. Rotting timber, dried fish, unwashed bodies, and something sharp and metallic underneath all of it. The sun is brutal. The horizon stretches out in every direction, and there is nothing. No land, no other ships, just open ocean, and the sound of rope and the groaning of a hull that has been at sea for too long. This is where you live now. Not the version you have seen in films. Not the gold coins and the tricorn hats and the swaggering captains giving rousing speeches on the bow. The real thing. The version that history quietly buried under centuries of myth and romanticization. And once you understand what it actually felt like to be a pirate, you will never see the story the same way again. Let's go back. Not to the swashbuckling fantasy, but to the beginning. Most pirates did not choose the sea the way you might choose a career. They were pushed into it. The men who ended up flying the black flag were overwhelmingly poor. They came from the docks, the slums, the lowest rungs of a society that had very little use for them. Many had served on merchant vessels or naval ships before turning pirate, and what they found there was not adventure. It was brutality. Naval life in the 17th and 18th centuries was a kind of legal slavery. Captains had absolute power. Men were flogged with minor infractions. Pay was withheld. Rations were cut. Disease moved through the crews like fire through dry grass, and the men who survived on the voyage came home, if they came home at all, with nothing to show for it. So when the opportunity arose to take a different kind of ship, a pirate ship, many men did not think of it as crossing a line. They thought of it as escaping one. And here is the part that surprises most people. Life aboard a pirate vessel was, in many ways, more democratic than almost anything else available to a poor man in that era. Think about that for a moment. Pirates elected their captains. They voted on where to sail and what targets to pursue. They drew up written agreements, articles signed by every crew member before they set out. That laid out the rules of the ship, the division of any plunder, and the rights of each man aboard. If a captain proved cowardly or cruel or incompetent, the crew could vote and remove him. Just like that, a man who held no power whatsoever on land, who had no vote, no property, no legal standing, could step aboard a pirate ship and become a voting member of a functioning democratic society. The articles themselves are remarkable documents. They guaranteed compensation for injuries sustained in battle. A man who lost his right arm might receive a specific number of coins. A man who lost his left arm would receive a slightly different amount. An eye had its price, a leg had its price. These were not handouts. They were written contractual obligations negotiated and agreed upon before the ship ever left port. In a world where poor men had no legal protections whatsoever, pirates invented their own. But do not let that paint too clean of a picture, because the reality of daily life at sea was still relentlessly hard. Food was the first problem. Fresh provisions ran out quickly. What replaced them was hard tack, a kind of biscuit made from flour and water baked until it was nearly indestructible, and often infested with weevils. Sailors learned to tap the biscuit on the table before eating it, to knock the insects out, or to eat it in the dark so they could not see what was moving. Meat was salted until it barely resembled meat anymore. Fresh water turned foul in barrels within weeks. Scurvy set in on long voyages, a disease caused by lack of vitamin C that caused teeth to fall out and gums to blacken and bleed. Old wounds would reopen as if the body were forgetting how to hold itself together. Men became hollow versions of themselves long before they reached their destination. And then there was the boredom. This is the part no movie or show ever shows you. The vast, crushing, disorienting boredom of weeks at the sea with nothing in sight and nothing to do. A pirate crew might go 2 or 3 months between encounters. Between those moments of violent action that the stories celebrate, there was just the ocean. Dice, cards, music, sometimes arguments that built slowly over days and weeks until they erupted over something meaningless. They sleep in shifts and hammocks strung below the deck in the dark, the ship rocking and the smell of blige coming up through the boards. And the weather, no radar, no satellite forecasts, no weather warning systems, just the sky and the feel of the air and the color of the water and whatever knowledge a man had gathered over years of sailing. Storms arrived with little warning and left devastation behind them. Sails were shredded, mats snapped, men were swept overboard and lost without a sound. There one moment and simply gone the next. The ocean indifferent to the whole event. When a target did happen to appear on the horizon, everything changed. The psychology of that moment is something worth sitting with. Your heart is going. Your hands know what to do, even if your mind has not caught up yet. The ship comes alive around you. Ropes pulled tight, sails adjusted, weapons checked and loaded. And across the water, on the other ship, people who have nothing to do with you are about to have the worst day of their lives. Because you need what they have. Most pirates preferred not to fight. This is one of the most counterintuitive truths of the golden age of piracy. Violence was expensive. Dead crew members could not be replaced easily. Damaged ships needed repairs that cost time and resources. A target that surrendered without resistance was worth infinitely more than one that fought back. So pirates cultivated terror as a business strategy. The flag was part of it. The black flag, with its skull or bones, was not just symbolism. It was communication. It said, surrender now and this goes smoothly. Resist and the calculation changes. Many ships surrendered at the sight of a flag alone. When they did, the process was almost businesslike. Cargo was inventoried and taken. Sometimes crew members were recruited, willingly or not, to fill gaps in the pirate crew. Captains who had been cruel to their own men were occasionally subjected to a kind of rough justice by their former crews, who saw the arrival of pirates as an unexpected opportunity to settle scores. But sometimes ships did not surrender, and then it was chaos. The boarding itself was terrifying and fast, grappling hooks thrown across the gap, ropes pulled taut, men crossing in the seconds of confusion while smoke and noise and the sheer physical shock of cannon fire and gunshot made coherent thought almost impossible. Up close, the weapons of the age were horrible. Cutlasses were not elegant. Pistols were slow to reload. The fighting was close and desperate and over quickly, one way or another. And then after, the adrenaline draining away, all the wounded men, and the noise giving way to something quieter and stranger. The ocean still moving beneath you, indifferent as always. Most pirates had short careers, not because they were caught, though many were, but because the sea took them, or disease, or their luck simply ran out in some unremarkable way far from land and far from whatever story they thought they were living. The average working life of a pirate in the Golden Age was 2 to 3 years. Very few died wealthy. Very few retired to quiet lives somewhere warm. What they had, for however long they had it, was something almost impossible to find anywhere else in the world. They had a vote. They had a contract. They had the right to say no to a captain who abused them. They had, in the most improbable of settings, a version of dignity. The ocean is still out there. Still the same horizon. Still the same indifferent blue. And somewhere underneath all the myth, in the costume, and the cinematic gold, there is a real person standing on the warped salt-crusted deck, tapping weevils out of a biscuit, watching the horizon for something that might change their life, or end it. Just trying to get by in a world that had never given them much of a chance.